I just passed my Part 107 exam, and I have 3 tips that I think will help you pass your exam in 2021. All right, I just got done taking my Part 107 small drone test, and I passed. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. There's my score. I don't know if that's in focus or not. I passed with an 87. I was hoping to break the 90s, and I think I would have, although at the very end I second guessed myself on a couple questions and I switched them, and I think I made a mistake on those. It was harder than I thought. I thought I was going to breeze through it a little bit better than I did. Here's a couple tips and suggestions now that it's fresh in my memory and I just took the test and passed it. The first thing was the first 4 or 5 questions, never seen it before. Threw me for a complete loop. So number 1, be sure to study the latest material. Google, 2021 107. A couple of the questions that came up that threw me for a loop were the remote ID. I heard to study those, and I did study a couple, but there were questions on there I didn't know the answer to. One of them was something like, if your remote ID check fails upon takeoff, something like that, what's going to happen? And it had 3 things. And one of them was like, your aircraft will not take off. Another one was, it will affect the performance of your aircraft. Well, it's not going to affect the performance of the aircraft. So some of it was common sense, but the way they worded it was really frustrating. They had lots of trick questions. Pretty sure the answer on that one was, you shouldn't be flying it if you're not in an FAA approved area, because they're going to set up these zones where you can fly without the remote ID. So that should be the answer, is you shouldn't fly, but the way it was worded was like, you can't take off. So I don't know, is that going to be the case with remote ID? You just can't even take off. It won't let you take off if it's not registering. There were a bunch of questions like that where they're trick questions, and I don't like that, because I'm pretty sure I had the knowledge to pass. I did pass. I think I could have passed even better if it weren't for some of those trick questions. But a couple other tips for you. Number 2, really study your sectional charts. I had a ton of questions on the sectionals. I didn't think there was going to be that many. They're super easy though if you're prepared. Watch a couple videos. I'll leave some links in the description below. They're super easy if you use the little legend. The legend in the book they give you is really helpful. So it'll say, this airport right here is in Class D airspace, Class B airspace, Class G airspace. And you just look on the legend. It's like a blue line around it. Okay, that's Class B airspace. Like, there's quite a few questions that the answer is right there for you in the book if you take the time to look in the legend. So that's another big tip. Third tip for you, process of elimination. This test, I think I could have passed it with less homework. And I didn't even do a lot. I'm not trying to brag, but I decided to take this test a couple days ago. I studied for like 2 days. I say 2 days, like a couple hours each day. I watched a couple YouTube videos. I didn't pay for any courses. I did a couple of the tests that you can do online. Those are helpful, but somewhat outdated. But my point is going to be, you only have 3 answers. It's a multiple choice question. So that's pretty darn good odds right there. You have a 33% chance of just guessing and getting one of the answers right. Then you can almost always throw out one of those 3 answers because they're just gibberish. They're just foolishness. They'll just say something completely stupid. So you can X that one out. Now you have a 50-50 shot. You could go through the whole test and just guess 50-50 on the 2 remaining, and you should score at least a 50 just doing that. So keep that in mind. Be very careful, read the questions, but you can almost always eliminate one. Now you got a 50-50 shot. Another tip, use the bookmark feature. So if you're unsure, there's a couple questions in there where I'm like, I know this is the answer, no problem, check it off. But if you're unsure, bookmark it, and then you go back to the end. So I ended up bookmarking maybe 10 or 15 questions, and I went through and reread them, looked through the little book they give you, and I eventually was able to figure out most of them, I think. Let's see, another tip. Study the latest material, like I said. There's some questions on there about flying at night. Some of those rules recently changed. There's questions about remote ID. Some of those changed. And then there were some questions on there that just threw me for a loop. Like, I've never seen them before. Maybe I should have. There was one about a good CRM will include this, this, and this. and I wasn't sure on that one. There was another question in some of the test questions where I was sure on it, but that one, there was something about safety in there. But always think about the intent of what they're asking with the question. It's usually about safety, and there's usually common sense at the core of a lot of these. So I'd be interested to see what I would have scored if I would have just did the test without studying as much as I did. But definitely study, do the tests that are online, watch some of the videos. They're really helpful. The sectionals with like the latitude and longitude, I was hoping to get more of those. I had a couple, but the questions with the latitude and longitude in the sectionals, those ones should be give-me's if you know how to do the latitude and longitude, which you should if you're taking the test. I only had like 2 of those. I wish I had more because those you can't mess up. You just count the little hash marks, so you know exactly where the location is. But I wasn't as confident. I was really scared to finish the test at the end of it. There were quite a few questions in there that threw me for a loop or that were trick questions, but fortunately I still scored at 87. I was hoping to be in the 90s. I performed pretty well on some of the tests that they have online, but you got to be careful of those tests they have online. Some of those are a couple of years old, and you're getting a lot of different questions in those now. So I guess those are my tips. Obviously, be sure to study your sectionals because there's a ton of them in there. Study the new material that's coming out on remote ID, flying at night, some of the new changes that just came out. Do the practice tests that are online. Those would be really helpful for you, and really focus on the sectionals. There's a bunch of YouTube videos online that focus just on learning the different sectionals. I watched a video last night that actually really helped me. In each of the quadrants, there's a big blue number, and I never knew what that meant until I watched the video last night, and I had 2 questions that came up on my test for that number. That big blue number you see, it's the max altitude of the total quadrant for that area. I saw that number when I was studying, but I don't think that came up in any of the study questions or guides, so that was another one that threw me for a loop. So anyways, I hope that helps. I'm really excited. I was so scared she was going to tell me I failed by like 1 question or something, because at the end, I had an hour left. And I went through all the questions again, and I made a little tick mark next to each one, like I'm positive on this, I'm not sure on this. And I had 60 questions total. 45 I'm like absolutely sure on, and then there were 15 left where I was kind of sure but not positive. So after I was looking at that, I'm like, man, this could go either way. But again, out of those 15 that I wasn't sure on, still have a 50-50 shot, so I should get at least 7 of those right, just statistically speaking on average. So I mean, that would have been 45 correct plus 7 more would have been 52 correct, so that would have been an easy pass, 52 out of 60. But those are my tips. Thanks a lot for watching. I got to go home, fill out the paperwork, and then I'm going to get my official little drone license, and we'll have another business for our homestead. I'd love to get out. I used to be a real estate agent, and real estate is just booming right now, so I don't want to do this as a full-time business, but it'd be fun to do it as a little side business and get some really cool drone footage of houses that are for sale and do some hyperlapses at night. That would be pretty cool, and earn a little extra money that way as well. Frankly, I'd do it for free because it's kind of a fun thing to do. So thanks a lot for watching. As we do in every episode of Homestead How, stay tuned till the very end. We've got some really cool pictures we took on our homestead this week. We're going to show them at the end of the video. I know this isn't our traditional homesteading video, so thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more of that homestead stuff, check out some of our playlists. We've got everything from building our goat house, our chicken coop, our greenhouse from scratch, to our homestead businesses, and everything homestead related in those playlists. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day.